Hi guys, welcome back to the Financial Interest YouTube channel. My name's Dan. Facebook had one of its toughest weeks on record. Firstly, a whistleblower came out stating that Facebook is prioritizing companies' profits over safety of its users. And then the following day there was an outage where all of Facebook apps were down globally for 6 hours. So this has been a really tough week for Facebook, and I'm going to look into it in more detail. So let's get on with the video. So last Sunday on October the 3rd, the whistleblower came forward as Frances Haugen, and she's a former Facebook employee who'd collected a number of documents which she then released to the Wall Street Journal, and then following this did an interview with 60 Minutes. The following day on October the 4th is when the company suffered a global outage, so it had apps such as Facebook, Messenger, Instagram and WhatsApp were all down for 6 hours, which obviously, as you can imagine, caused chaos across the world, particularly for people who rely on Facebook for their businesses. And one day later, on October the 5th, Haugen testified in front of the US Congress. So we can kind of look at some of the key points from the Facebook whistleblower's testimony on Capitol Hill here. And the reason is kind of really powerful is that she was an insider in Facebook, and we're not normally hearing this kind of information because it's never made public. And obviously she has experience working at Facebook and also other social media kind of places as well. And then obviously you can see here work for Google, Yelp and Pinterest amongst others. And Haugen told the Congress that Facebook consistently chose to maximize its growth rather than implement safeguards on its platform. And before she left the social network, she copied thousands of pages of confidential documents and shared them with lawmakers, regulators and the Wall Street Journal. And one of the key points is related to how Facebook addresses its younger users. And one study leaked that Facebook actually found that 13.5% of UK teen girls had suicidal thoughts become more frequent because of starting on Instagram. And the key here is that Haugen is saying that Facebook has broken the law. And according to the legal team, she says Facebook executives, including Mark Zuckerberg, misstated and omitted key details about what was known about Facebook and Instagram's ability to cause harm. And we can see here on Seeking Alpha that the Facebook whistleblower says the company prioritized profits over safety. And she's quoted here as saying, "The first thing I saw at Facebook over and over again that there was conflicts of interest between what was good for the public and what was good for Facebook. Facebook over and over again chose to optimize for its own interests, like making more money. It is subsidizing and it's paying for profits with our safety." And obviously Facebook kind of really denies this, and they issued a response to her statement that every day our teams have to balance protecting the ability of billions of people to express themselves openly with the need to keep our platform a safe and positive place. We continue to make significant improvements to tackle the spread of misinformation and harmful content. To suggest we encourage bad content and do nothing is just not true. So it's always important to look at both sides, but I think this has still got some way to play out. And let's take a look how this event is affecting the Facebook stock. And we can see that here Facebook kind of reached a high in September, on the 7th of September, trading at $382.18. And then kind of as this news came in last week, we saw it drop to 326.23. And that was a 17.2% drop on that kind of high, but it's still kind of only around the level that it was at back at the beginning of June. Of course, this is not the first time Facebook has had this kind of thing happen to them. Back in only 3 years ago in 2018, they had the Cambridge Analytica scandal. So we can go and jump back here 5 years and we will see that kind of how that played out in 2018. Similar kind of story. We saw a record high at that time of 210, just under. And then the scandal kind of continued to play out throughout this year, and the stock just dropped and dropped and dropped. And coupled with bad results kind of at the end of the year, it kind of bottomed out towards the end of the year of $125. So this can present significant buying opportunities as long as you're certain that this event is going to rectify itself fairly soon and it's not going to cause permanent damage to the company. And we don't really need to go very far to kind of find the risks associated with this kind of thing. You can literally just jump into the 10K filing and we kind of go down and just look for the risk factors, and then straight away you're going to see a list of different risk factors, one of which is kind of related to what we're seeing now with this particular event. and in particular where it's got risks related to government regulation and enforcement. So government restrictions on access to Facebook and other products or actions can impair their ability to sell advertising in different countries and regions. And complex and evolving US and foreign privacy, data use and data protection. And this can all kind of comes in different states, but it's kind of one of the things which we're seeing now. And there's a real possibility that Facebook could get actual heavy regulation coming in their way. And here you'll see a few other risks related to data security and intellectual property. And it's always a good place to look, but it's interesting to actually see this playing out in a real scenario. So obviously we've seen there's going to be some significant risks associated with Facebook, and in all likelihood we're probably going to see some regulation coming their way, which is not necessarily a bad thing considering they do have 1.9 billion daily active users, which is a huge percentage of the total people online globally. And due to these ongoing events that tend to happen in Facebook, like I mentioned, the Cambridge Analytica and obviously the Whistleblower happening now, these are all risks that come around every few years, and Facebook has dealt with them before, and I'm sure it will continue to deal with them again as well. But this usually presents an opportunity to buy into the stock at lower prices. And for that reason, Facebook seems to always skirt fairly close to its intrinsic value. You don't see it kind of getting really high above it compared to other companies, even such as Google or Apple. They tend to trade significantly higher multiples than Facebook do. And I think that's really because of the amount of data and privacy issues that Facebook constantly seems to come up against. And like I say, it looks like some form of legislation and restrictions is more than likely to get imposed on Facebook. And like I mentioned, I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing in the long term. What we need to look at is how the management deals with this event. Obviously, they need to be forthcoming and honest and work together with the authorities, because the success of their business in the long term is kind of reliant on the trust of the people using it, both personally and for business. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see how this plays out in the coming months. So that's it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give us a like. Also consider subscribing to the channel as well if you haven't already. And you can click the notification bell to get notified when I release new videos. And let me know in the comments below, what do you think about all that's happening in Facebook at the moment? Do you think that this is just another kind of bump in the road and they'll quite easily recover from it? Or do you think that this is going to cause kind of more serious damage to the company in the future? So let me know in the comments. I'm always interested to hear your opinions on that. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.